Let me tell you of the days of high adventure.
Hey there, my fellow cheapskates. Welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander Cheapskate, and we are back with another edition of the Golden Age, our series of Warhammer Fantasy Battle Reports. And this is Battle Report number 105, and this is a 3,000 point battle that is fought between Tzeentch, Legion of Chaos, as well as Bretonnians. My friend Death is bringing the Esoteric Order of the Thousand Suns, a 3,000 point Tzeentch Legion of Chaos army. And once again, I am playing the Blackstone Crusade, our studio's 3,000 point Bretonnian army. So this is another, we'll go around again with my Bretonnians. I'm really loving the way the army works. I really like the gameplay involved. I like the rule sets and how it operates, and having a blast playing this army. So like I said before, in this series, we're actually going to be taking this Bretonnian army through its paces. It will be facing against every single army within our studio's collection, so that way we can see exactly how it stacks up against different types of opponents over time. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to play some background music real quick and show you photos of both armies. At the same time the music is playing, we'll show you army lists of both armies as well, or you can check down below into the description box and you can also see the army list there as well. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, let's get this battle report on a roll.
Crom, I've never prayed you before. I have no tongue for it. No one, not even you, will remember if we were good men or bad, why we fought or why we died. All that matters is that two stood against many. That's what's important. Balor pleases you, Crom. So grant me one request. Grant me revenge. And if you do not listen, then to hell with you.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dying times here.
Alright, so there are rules for this one. Is Battle Line. It is the most typical game of Warhammer Fantasy Battle we play in this channel, with standard deployment as well as standard victory conditions. So with the scenario rules over, let's go and talk about the battle plan real quick. So here's an overhead shot of the entirety of the battlefield. As you can see, we're playing on a 4x6 table. I'm deployed on the near side of the table. My friend Death is deployed on the far side of the table as well. And pretty much for my battle plan on this one is to pretty much just continue what I've been doing. I kind of divide up my army into thirds. On the left-hand flank, I have my Knights Errant as well as one of my unit of Questing Knights. Just going to try to protect my left-hand flank against those Chaos Knights as well as those Screamers that are located on Death's left-hand flank. I'm going to try to charge in forward with both my Grail Knights as well as my Knights of the Realm, as well as another unit of Questing Knights directly into his center against his Chaos Warriors, against his Mutilated Vortex Beast, as well as his Pink Horrors, and hopefully destroy his center. At the same time, I'm going to try to protect my right-hand flank with my Peasant units. So as you can see, I got my Ravizan Guard there with my Men-at-Arms, as well as my Bowmen, and then of course I'll use my my yeomen to act in blocking positions to protect my flanks for my cavalry units and also to pin in my enemy as well. And that's pretty much the plan I'm kind of going with for the most part. I'm playing Bretonnians. My job is to get there as quickly as possible, engage in close combat, and destroy them on the charge, because being countercharged as cavalry is always a bad thing to happen. So that's pretty much my plan on this one. So with the battle plan over, let's go and talk about deployment real quick. Alright, so let's go and talk about the deployment for the Blackstone Crusade. First of all, we're starting over here on the left-hand side of my army. On the very far left-hand side is a unit of 8 Questing Knights. Those guys are called the Hedge Knights. Is a unit of 8 Questing Knights with full command. They're packing great weapons, heavy armor, and shields. And they're also riding Bartered Warhorses. And also leading that unit is Corbin of the Ravens. He is a Monk of the Lady. He's riding a Bartered Warhorse. He's a level 2 wizard with the Lore of the Lady. He's got the Steed of the Lady as well as the Wrath of Righteousness, as well as a Dispel Scroll. And right next on the right-hand side, that is a Silver Squires. It is 9 Knights Errant with full command. They're equipped with lances, heavy armor, shields, and Bartered Warhorses, and they also have the Errantry Banner. So the unit does get +1 strength on the charge, which is really nice for that unit. However, they have -2 leadership for their impetuous rolls, which is pretty much like Frenzy. They have to take a leadership test to see if they charge or not, so I do have to worry about that a little bit. And that pretty much makes it my left-hand flank for this one. So here's a centered picture of my deployment here in the center. On the left hand side, those are the Realm Hussars. It is a unit of 5 yeomen armed with crossbows and horses. Right next on the right hand side, that is a huge unit of Knights of the Realm called the Pride of Lioness. It is a unit of 10 Knights of the Realm with full command. They have lances, heavy armor, shields, as well as bartered war horses. And leading that unit, I have 2 of my characters. On the left hand side, that is what's his name? Warren, the Hermit of Shalon. He is a prophet of the lady. He's riding a warhorse. He's a level 4 wizard, Lord of the Lady. He's got the Steed of the Lady, Doom of Dole, Spiteful Glance, as well as the Lady's Virtue of Valor. And he's also packing the Silver Mirror, so that way I can bounce back any enemy spells, which could be really important considering I'm taking on Chaos Legion Tzeentch, because those guys have a lot of magic missiles and direct damage attacks. And then right next on the right hand side, that is Rapunzel de Linus. She is a special character. She's a battle standard bearer for my army. She has a Sword of Linus as well as the Fleur de Lis banner as well. And then right next on the right hand side, that is a huge unit of Grail Knights. That unit is called the Blackstone Legion. It is a unit of 10 Grail Knights with full command. They have lances, heavy armor, shields, bartered horses. They also got Grail Vows as well. And they also have the Banner Defense, which gives them a 4 ward save against magic missiles, magical attacks from range attacks, as well as shooting attacks, which would be really nice to have in that unit as well. And of course, leading that unit, I also have 2 of my characters as well. Up in the front, I have the general for my army. That is Remy d'Apion. She's a Duchess of Linus. She's a Bretonnian lord. She's also my general. She's got a sword, bartered warhouse, as well as a Grail Vow. She's also got the Virtue of Knightly Temper, as well as a Sword of the Lady's Champion and Serene's Locket. As well as leading that unit, as well as another character named Lair of the Beasts. He is a paladin who's armed with a great weapon shield, bartered warhorse. He's also got a Grail Vow. He's got the Virtue of Duty, so that way that unit has +1 to its combat res, and he's also got the Cuirass of Fortune as well for extra killing power. And then right next on the right hand side is a unit called the Templars of Dawn. It is a unit of 9 quests and full command. They got great weapons, heavy armor, shields, and riding bartered war horses. And finally, making it my right-hand flank is where all my peasant units are. Starting on the left-hand side, that is the Darnay Rangers, a unit of 5 yeomen, armed with crossbows and also mounted horses. Next to them on the right-hand side, that is the Ravenzan Guard. It is a unit of 24 men-at-arms, armed with standard bearer as well as a musician. They're packing halberds, light armor, as well as shields. And right next to them is a unit called the Bowmen of Baritz. It is a unit of 20 peasant bowmen. They're armed with longbows. They have defensive stakes as well as braziers. And finally, on the right-hand side, we have the Chasseurs of l'Arve, which is a unit of 5 yeomen with crossbows as well as horses. And that pretty much makes up my deployment for this one. Alright, across the table for me is the Esoteric Order of the Thousand Suns. This is Odess Chaos Legion as Tzeentch army, and we're starting off deployment here on the far left-hand flank. So as you can see on the left-hand side, we have a unit of 3 Screamers of Tzeentch called the Colors Out of Space, and right next to the right-hand side, that is the Second Suns, a unit of 10 Chaos Knights of Tzeentch. They have musicians as well as standard bearer. They're equipped with ensorcel weapons, shields, and chaos armor. They're also riding at barded chaos steeds. And right next to them on the right-hand side, that is an Exalted Flamer that is called the Quest of Iranon. And he's Exalted Flamer of Tzeentch as well. Making up his deployment in the center in the back there, that is Lord Tremendous. He is a Demon Prince of Tzeentch in the back. He's got a general of this army as well. He's got Chaos Armor as well as Demonic Flight. He's level 4 Wizard with the Lore of Metal. He's packing Searing Doom, Enchanted Blades of Aiban, Glittering Robes, Gehenna's Golden Hounds, as well as Final Transmutation. He's also packing the Charm Shield, the Dragonbane Gem, as well as the other Trickster Star. He's also got Flaming Breath, Soul Feeder, as well as a Chaos Familiar. And then finally, right in front of him, you can kind of see him, but he's kind of hidden away a little bit by the pink core unit. But that is Skesis of Dark Crystal. He's a Chaos Sorcerer of Tzeentch. He's a level 2 Lord of Tzeentch. He's got Chaos Armor. He's got the Bolt of Change as well as Infernal Gateway spells. He's packing an Enchanted Shield as well as a Talisman of Preservation. He's also got the Third Eye of Tzeentch, and he's also running a Disc of Tzeentch as well. And then right in front of him, of course, is the Dunwich Horrors. It is a unit of 20 pink horrors with musician and standard bearer. They're level 1 Wizard with the Lord of Tzeentch with the Blue Fire of Tzeentch. And right next on the right hand side, that is a unit called the Storm Lords. It's a unit of 29 Chaos Warriors of Tzeentch with musician and standard bearer. They're packing halberds and chaos armor, and leading that unit is Akkold Hellbrass, the champion of Tzeentch. He's an exalted hero of Tzeentch who's also the army's battle standard bearer. He's got chaos armor and shield. He's also packing the Ogre Blade as well as a Dragon Helm. And then right next to him on the right hand side, that is another exalted flamer of Tzeentch. That character is called the Rune of Sarnath. And finally, making up Odeth's right-hand flank. On the left-hand side there, we have a Mutilith Vortex Bee called the Shadow over Innistrad. And right next on the right-hand side, we have the Haunters of the Dark, a unit of 3 Screamers of Tzeentch. And that pretty much makes a deployment for this one. So with deployment over with, we go directly to the top of turn number 1, and we roll off for initiative to see which of us will be going first. So that takes us directly to the top of turn number 1, and of course the Legion of Chaos of Tzeentch get to go first. And the reason why is because I am playing Bretonnians. I basically give up the first turn of the game to my opponent, so that way my army takes a knee and they pray to the lady. So that way I get the blessings of the lady. That gives me a 6-up ward save in close combat attacks, as well as a 5-up ward save against magic missiles, as well as range attacks, and that's always a good thing to have for an army. So because of that, I kneel, I pray, and so because of that, that goes directly to the Esoteric Order of the Thousand Suns. And this photo is taken directly after the movement phase, and as you can see, my friend is kind of cautious in his movement for the most part. And it kind of makes sense because he doesn't want to get countercharged by my cavalry forces, because being charged by Bretonnian heavy cavalry is never a good thing. So as you can see there, for the most part, he doesn't really do much movement. He does send up his Skesis Dark Crystal. That guy flies directly into the top of the tower, which is located there in the middle of the table. He also sends up the Quest of Aiban, as well as the Rune of Zarnath. Those guys move up as well to protect the left as well as right-hand flanks of the Dunwich Horrors, as well as the Stormlords, who also move up their normal allowance to get in a good blocking position between the tower as well as those forests there at the top of the screen. And they're using the forest to protect the right-hand flank as well as the tower, which is actually a pretty good idea considering I'm going to try to outflank him for the most part. He then flies up Lord Tremendous to land right in the middle of the woods. On the left-hand side, he keeps the Colors of Space as well as the Second Sons where they're at. He doesn't move them up, but he does march up the Shadow over Innistrad, moving up directly to that little farmer's field there on the right-hand side, so that way he's in range to use his Aura of Madness spell. And then he also just flies up his Haunters of the Dark behind the chicken coops, that way I can get some cover from being shot at. But like I said before, for the most part though, he's just kind of moving out kind of gingerly, just because he doesn't want to be countercharged against. So here's a close-up of the Colors out of Space, as well as the Second Sons, and these guys are holding back because it looks like he's going to try to counter-charge me, so that way if I fail a charge, he can then take advantage of the situation, and then charge forward and finish off my troops. And here's the Quest of Aiban, as well as Skesis Dark Crystal, taking up their blocking positions there right next to the tower. And here's a close-up of the Dunwich Horrors, as well as the Stormlords, standing their ground right there in the middle of the battlefield, using the tower and the forest to protect their flanks. And here's a close-up of the Rune of Zarnath, as well as Lord Tremendous taking position right inside the forest, that way they don't get shot at. And you can see right there we have the Shadow over Innistrad moving across the field, trying to get ready to use that Aura of Madness spell of his. And finally, here's a close-up of the Haunters of the Dark flying up forward, taking cover position behind that chicken coop so that way they don't get shot at. And that pretty much makes up the movement phase. So with the movement phase over with, we go directly to the magic phase. So my friend O Death rolls 2d6 to determine the wind of magic, and manages to get a 9 on this one, which gives him the Dark Prince Thirsts ability off on his Realm of Chaos chart. Unfortunately for him though, it ends up that the Dark Prince wasn't all that thirsty after all, because none of my opponent couldn't roll a 6 for any of my unengaged units, so because that, my people are perfectly fine. His magic phase was pretty much lackluster. I was able to stop all of his spells from just getting pretty good lucky roll dice with my power dice, as well as using my Dispel Scroll in order to stop his magic phase for the most part. So the magic phase over with, we skip shooting because the Chaos Legion of Tzeentch is now within range for shooting elements, and there is no close combat, so we go directly to the bottom of turn number 1 for the Bretonnians. Alright, so that takes directly to the bottom of turn number 1 for the Bretonnians, and with a YOLO in the air and with the pride of the lady in my heart, I charge forward. That's what I decided to do. So the reason why I decided to charge forward was for one simple reason. My Silver Squires, my Knights Errant, they failed their leadership test in order to, for their impetuous test, to see if they don't charge forward. I actually failed the first time and I rolled again because I just couldn't get it. I just rolled really high for the leadership value. So because of that, they have to charge forward. So the closest target to them is the Quest of Aiban, which is the Exalted Flamers on the back side of the tower. So I pick up my 3d6, I roll it, I roll 2 6s and a 1, so because of that I get 12 inches off when combined with their 8-inch movement. That charge forward 20 inches, and I go smashing directly into the Quest of Aiban, which is really awesome as well. Managed to get that charge off nicely, which was really cool. So because of that happening and my guy charging forward prematurely, I decided just to, chance it and just try to go for it as best as I can. And luckily for me, the Lady of the Lake was with me. As you can see in this photo, my Knights of the Realm from the Pride of Lioness, they go smashing directly into the Dunwich Horrors. At the same time, I also managed to charge it forward with my Grail Knights. They go crashing directly into the front of the Stormlords as well. So that part was great. Now, after those charges took place, I was unsure if my questing knights could actually make those distances, so because I did not charge them up forward, instead I just marched them up. So as you can see there, my my Templars of the Dawn, they move up to the left-hand side to right-hand side, to protect my right-hand flank for my Grail Knights against Lord Tremendous. So they're in that good little blocking position to make sure that they don't get attacked. At the same time, I also move up my Hedge Knights to directly march them up forward directly to the left-hand side to protect the left-hand flank of my Silver Squires as well. Yeah, that does put me in a bad position because I can get charged against by the Chaos Knights of the Second Sons or the Colors out of space. But at the same time, though, my Knights are also carrying great weapons, so they can, take the attacks if they have to. They got really high armor save, and I have faith in them for the most part. After I get done moving up my questing knights, and then also march up my yeomen for the most part. The Hussars of Riom move up to the left-hand side and kind of face against the tower to protect the left-hand flank of the Pride of Linus. So in case Skesis of Dark Crystals is feeling squirrely and decides to charge my left-hand flank. I then also march up the Darning Rangers as well as the Ravizan Guard, moving up closer in order to protect my right-hand flank against the Shadow over Innistrad as well. The Bowmen Brits, of course, stand their ground because they have defensive stakes. And then finally, on the right-hand side, the Hussars of, the Chasseurs of Le Havre. Those guys also move up just a normal moon allowance, so that way they can get a good line of sight against those Screamers, so that way they can shoot at them with the crossbows. And that pretty much makes up my movement phase for the most part. So here's a close-up of the Hedge Knights as well as the Silver Squires. The Silver Squires going directly into the Quest of Aranon, as well as my Hedge Knights protecting the left-hand flank of my Knights Errant, because being charged against with lances is never a good thing. So even though my Questing Knights have great weapons, yeah, I won't be able to strike like normal because I didn't charge forward, but again, they could also last longer too because they have pretty good armor saves and they hit back like a truck when the time comes. So here's a close of the melee that's happening right here in the middle of the battlefield. You can see that the Hussars of Riom are protecting the left-hand flank of the Pride of Linus. Pride of Linus charged directly into the Dunwich Horrors. I'm looking very forward to that combat. At the same time, you can see that the Blackstone Legion also charged directly into the Stormlords, and I'm really looking forward to see how that combat goes about. At the same time, you can see my Templars of the Dawn have moved up to protect the right-hand flank of my Grail Knights against Lord Tremendous, who's kind of lurking there in the forest. And here's a close of the Darning Rangers, as well as my Ravizan Guard, trying to protect my right-hand flank against the Mutileth Vortex Beast, known as the Shadow over Innistrad. And here's a close of the Bowmen of Brits, as well as the Chasseurs of Le Havre, getting ready to protect my right-hand flank against the Haunters in the Dark. And that pretty much makes up my movement phase. So the movement phase over, we go directly to the magic phase. Alright, so during the magic phase, I actually had a pretty successful magic phase. Warren the Hermit of Shalom was able to get off the Beguilement of Blondel, managed to get off the boosted version, which required a 14 up for the casting. And what that pretty much does is it affects all enemy units within 18 inches. It also remains in play, which is really awesome as well, which means that all enemy units must take a leadership test, and if they fail that leadership test, they become stupid for the most part. So because, as you can see there up on the top, you can see that my character, Skesis of Dark Crystal, he failed that leadership test, so now he's only leadership 1. At the same time, as you can see that the quest of Renown is also leadership weapon skill 1 as well, because if they're in close combat already and they fail the leadership test, that means the weapon skill is reduced down to 1 as well. So that's really going to help out my Silver Squires, really put the hurting directly onto that Exalted Flamer. At the same time, I was able to cast Doom of Dol as well. I got that directly onto Akkald Hellbrass, the champion of Tzeentch, which is really awesome as well. And basically what ends up happening is that any character or champion that fights against him automatically wounds on a 2-up. At the same time, my opponent also gets no armor saves as loud as well, which is really, really handy because the combat phase will be coming up here pretty quickly for me in a little bit. Unfortunately for me, the shooting phase is pretty much a bust, so nothing much really happened there in the shooting phase. So because of that, we go directly to the combat phase. And as you can see in this photo, the Silver Squires had no problem whatsoever killing off the Quest of Aranon. Managed to kill that guy right off the bat, which is all kinds of awesome. And because I defeated my opponent within the charge, I get to overrun as well, and I go forward directly into the Second Sons, engaging those guys in close combat, which is just all kinds of awesome. Really looking forward to see exactly how that combat goes. Meanwhile, in the center of the battlefield, the fight between the Pride of Linus as well as the Dunwich Horrors was all kinds of awesome. In the end, I was able to kill 5 of those Horrors, which is all kinds of good. And unfortunately for my opponent, he wasn't able to cause any damage back to me either. So, combined with my charge by combat res as well as the wounds I caused, I won this combat by a landslide. Unfortunately for me, though, demons don't break. However, they do suffer from instability rules. And by the time the smoke cleared, I pretty much half that unit in half, which is all kinds of awesome. I think there's only like 7 of those pink cores left, which is just absolutely fantastic. Meanwhile, the combat between the Blackstone Crusade, Blackstone Legion, as well as the Stormlords was pretty good, actually. It kind of worked out for my favor for the most part. The first thing that happens is that O'Death decides to declare a challenge with Akkald Hellbrass, because he has to with the Eye of the Gods chart. And so because of that, my General Remedy Apion, she accepts the challenge, and the two of them go out in close combat. In the end, I was able to put a wound on Akkald Hellbrass. He was able to put a wound on my general as well, and for the most part they both kind of survive, so because of that they go on for another round of combat. For the rest of the combat phase between the rest of the unit, the Stormlords were unable to do anything to me. My armor save was rolling really strong on this one. He did manage to cause one wound that got through my armor save, but my ward save on the 6-up saved me, so because of that the lady protects, which is just all kinds of awesome. At the same time though, however, I managed to kill 8 members of the Stormlords as well, so because of that I inflicted 8 wounds. I also got 3 ranks on top of that as well. I also charged. I also have my standard bearer in this unit as well. Now my opponent, he's got a battle standard bearer as well as a standard bearer, and he's also got 2 ranks, but I win this combat by 3, which means he has to take a break test, and he fails his break test even with the reroll. He runs back 7 inches. I chase him forward 11. As you can see there, the Blackstone Legion just runs down the Stormlords and kills them all to the man. And at the same time, Elkeld Hellbrass, the battle standard bearer for this army, also vaporizes, give me some nice juicy points for the entirety of that unit. At the same time, it also kind of moves me out of the way from getting charged at from the right hand flank from Lord Tremendous, so that part was really helpful as well. That's the reason why I decided to overrun, just so that way I couldn't get flank charged, which is all kinds of awesome. And that pretty much makes it the combat phase for this one. So the combat phase over with, you go directly to the top of turn number 2 for the Chaos Legion of Tzeentch. Alright, so that takes directly to the top of turn number 2 for the Legion of Chaos, and this photo is taken after the move phase. And as you can see in this photo, my friend Odeth decides to take advantage of the situation, and he charges and commits over on my flanks, is what he decides to do for the most part. The first thing he does is on the left hand side, he sends in the colors out of space to go directly into the Hedge Knights, so because of that, my questing knights are now engaged in close combat. At the same time, he also declares a charge with the Haunters of the Dark, who then go directly into my Chasseurs of Laharv over there in the right hand flank, so now my yeomen are engaged in close combat. He also sends up forward the Shadow of Innistrad, who goes directly into the Ravizan Guard. Luckily for me, my Ravizan Guard were able to pass the leadership, and the reason why they were able to do so from the terror check is because they're within range of the questing knights, and the Peasant's Duty means that they could use the leadership of the nearest knight unit next to them, so that really helped out a lot as well. So because of they stand their ground, and the Shadow of Innistrad charges directly into my peasants. He then also charges up forward with Lord Tremendous as well, who goes directly into the peasants as well. So it looks like he's going to try to take out my right hand flank for the most part. Now while that occurs, of course, he also moves up the Rune of Sarnath. That guy moves up his normal rune allowance, so that way he gets closer to my Darning Rangers, so that way he can shoot into pieces with his Exalted Flames. And at the same time, he also march flies Skesis of Dark Crystal. Manages to pass the leadership test, so he flies off the tower and lands directly next to the Rune of Sarnath, as right next to that farmer's field, so that way he can cause all kinds of problems. The rest of his units are engaged in close combat, so they really don't move. So here's a close-up of the colors out of space, engaging the Hedge Knights in close combat, as well as the Second Sons, who are currently engaged in close combat with my Silver Sentinels. I am kind of worried about this fight, though, because Chaos Knights are no joke whatsoever. The only thing I'm going for me is that I got good armor saves, as well as the protection of the lady, so hopefully my Silver Squires can make it. Meanwhile, here's a close-up of the, as you can see there, my Pride of Lioness still engaged in close combat with the Dunwich Horrors, and I have no illusions about it. I'm going to just destroy that unit, no problem, because, you know, Pink Horrors are not exactly the best fighting unit. And this part I'm really sad about. I'm not looking forward to seeing the Quest of Sarnath destroy my, the Rune of Sarnath destroying my troops, as well as the Shadow of Innistrad, as well as Lord Tremendous just destroying my poor peasant fighters, so that part's going to be kind of rough. And finally, here's a close-up of the Hunters of the Dark going directly into the Chasseurs of Laharv, and I'm not looking for that fire either because, let's face it, yeomen aren't really good at surviving against, you know, demonic entities, so that part's going to be kind of rough as well. So with the move phase over with, you go directly to the magic phase. And during the magic phase, my opponent rolls an 8 again for getting the Dark Prince Thirst, but this time I guess his thirst was already quenched beforehand because not much really happens. He wasn't able to roll a 6 for any of my engaged units, so that part was really nice as well. However, what was not so great though is that he managed to get Infernal Gateway off, so Skesis of Dark Crystal focuses his will and opens up the Infernal Gateway directly onto the back of my Grail Knights from the Blackstone Legion. Managed to kill 3 of my Grail Knights, which is really sad as well. Luckily for me though, I do manage to pass my panic test because Grail Knights are immune to psychology, which is all kinds of awesome. And I wasn't able to stop that spell for one simple reason. And that reason is because my buddy Odeth miscast 8 on that spell.
Klaatu! Veranda!
So I put the small blast template directly onto Skesis Dark Crystal. It goes off and puts a wound directly onto the Rune of Sarnath as well, but that's pretty much it for the most part. And plus it kind of ends his magic phase kind of prematurely, which is also kind of sad for him as well. So with the magic phase over with, you go directly to the shooting phase. And as you can imagine, the shooting phase, the Rune of Sarnath had no problem whatsoever just blowing up what was left of the Darney Rangers. Those guys got shot to pieces by, I believe it's the Blue Flames of Tzeentch. That's the one that fires like grape shot from a cannon, so that part was all kinds of tragic. So just like that, my unit got vaporized, which is all kinds of sad. So with the shooting phase over, we go directly to the combat phase over here on the right hand side. So as you can see here, my Chasers of Larar take on the Haunters of the Dark. Unfortunately for me, I was unable to cause any wounds whatsoever against those demons. However, the Screamers were able to kill off 2 members of my Yeomen. So unfortunately because of that, I lost combat by, I believe I lost by 3, because they charged also caused 2 wounds. I have leadership, I think 6 on these guys, so it drops them down to leadership 3. So needless to say, I fail my break test. And they go running hard. I think my Yeomen go back like 12 inches, so because of that, they run them directly off the table. At the same time, my opponent decides not to chase. He actually takes leadership test to restrain. He actually does a quick combat reform to face off against the right hand flank of my Bowman of Brits. So that part is kind of sad, and I'm not looking forward to see how that goes. And combat between my Ravizan Guard as well as the Shadow over Innistrad as well as Lord Tremendous was extremely lackluster. I was unable to do anything against those monsters. Meanwhile, though, they managed to kill, what is it? I have 24 in that unit. I only got, what, 14? They killed 14 of my peasants at the same time between their close combats, their sub attacks. Needless to say, I lost this fight bad. I needed to roll Snake Eyes to stick around. And unfortunately for me, though, I did not roll Snake Eyes, so I break. The Shadow of Innistrad pursues, of course. He runs forward, I think, like 10 inches. Manages to kill off the last of the Ravizan Guard. He overruns directly into my Bowman of Brits. Now, there is one silver lining to all this. The silver lining is that because he charged directly into the, overran directly into the defensive stakes, he does take a wound, so that part was actually kind of cool. So it's kind of like I can see it too, the Shadow of Innistrad just chasing down, eating up peasants, not watching where he's going, and bam, gets impaled real quick on some defensive stakes, which is just all kinds of awesome. Lord Tremendous, on the other hand, however, he turns 180 with a quick combat reform to look directly at my questing knights, and so that part is not so fantastic. Meanwhile, combat on the center of the table went extremely my way. I managed to kill off the last of the Dunwich Horrors without taking any losses whatsoever, so that was cool. Because I killed those guys, I did a quick combat reform to turn 180 with my Pride of Lioness. That way I can go directly to my right-hand flank and start bringing the pain. And combat between my Silver Squires as well as the Second Sons was absolutely fantastic. I pretty much how it ended up working is I lost one of my Silver Squires, so that part was kind of sad. However, I did manage to kill 2 Chaos Knights, which is all kinds of awesome. So because of that, I killed off 2. I also got 2 rank bonuses as well on top of that. So because I went in combat with 4, he's got, I think, a Standard Bearer, which kind of drops, I think he has a Standard Bearer and a wound, so because that drops my combat res by 2. So needless to say, he has to take a leadership test -2, so he's got leadership 6. And unfortunately for him, though, he does not within range of his Battle Standard Bearer because his Battle Standard dies, so he only gets the 1 reroll. And unfortunately for Odeth, he failed that panic test. So the Second Sons break. I think they flee back 8 inches. I pursue 10, I think is what ended up happening. So because of that, my Silver Squires ride forward and just lance all those Chaos Knights in the back and manage to kill them all as they're charging over their dead, dying corpses, which is just absolutely fantastic. Meanwhile, close combat between my Hedge Knights against the Colors Out of Space was absolutely fantastic. In the end, I was able to kill 1 Screamer, put a floating wound on another one, give me 4 wounds total. Unfortunately, my opponent, he was unable to cause any wounds back, so because I win combat by 4, he did charge or drops my combat res by 1, but I got 2 ranks as well as a Standard Bearer on top of that, which means I have combat res 6, and because of the instability rules, that unit vaporizes. And I do a quick combat reform to face over the right-hand side because all my army has to start heading to the right-hand side in order to deal with Lord Tremendous as well as the rest of Odeth's army. So that part is pretty cool as well. So with that being said, that takes directly to the bottom of turn number 2 for the Bretonnians. Alright, so that takes directly to the bottom of turn number 2 for the Bretonnians, and this photo is taken after the movement phase. And as you can see in this photo, for the most part, I just start making movement as quickly as I can over the right-hand side as well. So the first thing I do is I do a quick swift reform with my Silver Squires. They use the Musician Pass Leadership test, they get reformed, and they move up their normal movement allowance, heading directly to the right-hand side. I do exactly the same thing with my Blackstone Legion as well as my Templars of the Dawn. They move over to the right-hand side to start moving towards the Rune of Sarnath as well as Skesis of Dark Crystals. I then also march up my, I also do march up my Knights of the Realm as well. They move up forward. I did try to charge them in, originally is what I tried to do, but unfortunately I failed my charge, so they moved up a handful of inches, and then I marched up my Hedge Knights as well to lead up to the right hand side, and that's pretty much as it is. You can see all my cavalry units are starting to make their way directly towards my opponent because I'm about to bring the pain. So here's a close-up of the Hussars of Riom as they march up forward to get ready to, do some shooting and to cause some problems for my opponent. Just kind of protecting my right-hand flank from my cavalry units from being outflanked by my opponent. And here's a beautiful shot of all my cavalry forces turning over the right-hand side, getting ready to come down like a tidal wave of steel and thunder, getting ready to bring some pain for the lady, which I'm really looking forward to doing. And here's a close-up of my Bowmen of Brit still taking on the Shadow Innistrad over here on the right-hand flank as well. And that part is not so exciting because Bowmen are crunchy when eaten with ketchup into a Mutolith Vortex Beast. So during the magic phase, the Powder Monkey returns. I was able to pull out a couple of my opponent's Dispel dice. I try to do things like cast, Wrath of Righteousness. I also try to cast, the Steed of, the Spectral Steed. Steed of the Lady. There we go. That's where it allows one of my units to move with Ethereal as well. So I was able to pull out a couple of his Dispel dice before I decided to take the remainder of my dice and launch Spiteful Glance directly into Lord Tremendous. Unfortunate for Odeth, he wasn't able to stop that spell, so because of that, bam, he shrinks down, becomes a Powder Monkey instead, and he is automatically killed, which is all kinds of awesome. And the reason why I was able to cast that spell is because I also miscast 7 on that one, which is all kinds of horrible.
Klaatu! Veranda!
But luckily for me, the Banner Defense, though, was able to protect my guys from being blasted by the small templates, so no harm, no foul, which is just all kinds of awesome. And that pretty much makes it the magic phase for this one. So with that takes us directly to the end of the game. My buddy Odeth realized there's no way he can recomp his losses, so because of that he decides to surrender, and this nets another victory for the Bretonnians, which is just all kinds of awesome. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, this pretty much ends this battle report. We're going to go directly to the after action report because this game is now over.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
Sure, I could have stayed in the past. Could have even been king. But in my own way, I am king.
Hail to the king, baby.
Alright, now it's time for the After Action Report. This is the part of the battle report we talk about what went well, what went poorly, and what we can learn for the next time that we do battle. This is the After Action Report for the Golden Age Warhammer Fantasy Battle Report number 105, and this one ended up being a victory for yours truly. In the end, I was able to score 2,797 victory points, while my opponent Odeth was able to score 372. For Odeth, he lost Lord Tremendous, Alkol Telbrast, the Champion Tzeentch, the Quist of Aranon, the Dunwich Horrors, the Storm Lords, the Second Sons, and the Colors Out of Space. For my losses, I lost the Ravizan Guard, the Darnay Rangers, as well as the Chasseurs of La'Arv. In the end, this battle was insane. I got really lucky at the beginning of turn 1. Getting off my charges for most of my cavalry units really sealed the deal for me on this one. I was able to close a distance, smash into my opponent, and cause all kinds of problems in this one. And the reason why I was able to do that is for one simple reason. The cavalry golden rule is this: always charge, because being countercharged is horrible for cavalry, especially if you're armed with lances. So because of that, this battle could have easily turned out differently if my Knights of the Realm, my Grail Knights didn't make their charges. I was extremely lucky in my Silver Squires. They should have been butchered by the Second Sons at the same time, so I got really lucky there on the left-hand flank because, the lady truly protects on that one. However, I do regret leaving my right-hand flank open like that with my peasants getting slaughtered. I only had soft choices there with all my peasant units, and my peasants were being slaughtered as well as my light cavalry, so next time I might have to refocus my forces. I think I was too focused on the left-hand flank as well as the center, so next time I'll need to include some knights with my peasants on the flank so that way they don't get slaughtered the next time, so hopefully that'll help out. Spiteful Glance was also really cool in this spell, in this battle report as well. It's an extremely powerful spell, and it's slowly becoming my go-to spell for killing off troublesome characters who are kitted out to kill, so that's a nice thing about that. Now granted, I had a 6 dice for the most part, but it was still very powerful, and yes, I miscast, but I still kind of mitigated some of my losses for that most part. At the same time, Odeth did pretty well during this battle as well. He used the tower to protect his flank, should have worked, but unfortunately the Stormlord just couldn't get past my defenses of my Grail Knights for the most part as well. Also, magic was pretty much a non-factor for him on this game. Odeth's dice, if they rolled a little bit better, I think the magic would have destroyed large chunks of my army, especially if he was able to get some of his Lore of Metal spells off, but unfortunately he was just rolling really low with his magic dice for the most part as well. Still, this was an extremely fun game against an awesome opponent, and as always, I am looking forward to the rematch. So that's good for this one, you guys. As always, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. Your guys' input is always appreciated. Also, check us out on Facebook, Instagram, as well as blogger.com for all the latest greatest hobby news related to this channel. So that's good for this one, you guys. We'll catch you guys next one. Peace out and stay classy.